Today we are talking about my DIY install of QualityCraft's LVP flooring and the tools I found most useful on the job. Now let me preface this install video by telling you I am not a professional contractor. I consider myself a fairly handy DIYer, but this is my first time installing flooring like this.
Dry back vinyl planks are often glued down to the substrate.
This is one of the biggest drawbacks for DIYers, as it creates a time constraint, which can be stressful on a job you might be tackling for the first time. However, I will be using a new product for my install, a double-sided tape which works in place of the glue and allows me to work at my own pace. Alright everybody, are you ready to tackle the install? I'm going to walk you through some tips and tricks that are going to make your install a breeze. Now first things first, let me tell you why I selected this particular flooring for my job. QualityCraft's dry back vinyl planks are extremely flexible and forgiving. This makes them ideal for projects where the substrate is not perfectly flat, such as my basement. Now the first thing you'll want to do is make sure your substrate is clean and free of debris. Since I am installing directly on top of existing tiles, I used a TSP and water solution to scrub down the floors and remove any old wax or buildup. This ensures the tape adheres securely to the floor. Once the floor was clean, I began laying the tape around the perimeter of the room. From there I went on to creating a 2-foot grid which would help to keep the vinyl planks in position. After getting a feel for it, I found that the tape went down very quickly and you almost couldn't mess it up. The first and probably most important tool I'm going to recommend is an LVT or vinyl plank cutter. This tool makes fast, accurate cuts. In fact, the quality of the cuts are so good, I was often unable to tell which was the factory edge. It cost me about $180 and was worth every penny. My advice is to just factor this expense into your project's budget. I cut the planks to stagger in a half-full quarter pattern. The goal is to create enough variation so that your eye is not drawn to the straight line made by the plank's ends. After marking my room's center line, I began removing the tape's backing. I used a spacer to create an expansion gap and installed my first plank. The first row is critical. Take care that you are following your floor markings precisely. This is what everything else will line up off of. From there, the installation process really picked up. I built off of my staggered planks and worked across the room until I reached the wall. Personally, I'm not a big fan of wearing knee pads, so this CLC kneeling mat really came in handy. At the wall, I had to start trimming the planks to fit. Initially, I used a set of offset aviation snips from Midwest. This worked well, but was time-consuming and taxing on the forearms. I found that my Bosch table saw cut these planks really nicely, but a word of warning, it makes quite a mess. Definitely make sure you wear safety glasses and a respirator when you're making these cuts. At the door jamb, my Tajima pole saw worked wonders. With a scrap piece of flooring as a guide, the flexible blade made a super clean cut, allowing the flooring to fit snugly in place. One of the more challenging areas was around the water heater, so let me share a few tips. After measuring the diameter of the base, I divided this number by 2 to get the radius, and made a makeshift compass using a string with 2 loops at the end. I then traced a circle on a sheet of cardboard and cut out my template. I transferred the center point of the water heater to my plank, lined it up, and then traced a line. My Midwest snips worked perfectly for making the radius cut, and my plank fit like a glove. After it's all said and done, I must say I'm very pleased with my install. I really like the flooring tape and how easy these planks were to cut and install. In addition to the tools we talked about, you'll also want to bring a tape measure and speed square for marking cuts, a caulk gun for filling any small gaps around your door jambs, and a utility knife for trimming detailed cuts. And hey, if you're interested in learning more about the tools I used during this install, check out these videos. Until next time, take care.